Another is the extinction of many species of life on the planet. Species are becoming extinct at a faster rate than has occurred.
Hello everyone, welcome to my new video. This is my next manga review. As you can tell, there's something a little bit different. I have a light, so I can record my videos anytime I want now. A real good projecting light that, captures me. It's all well and good. Got a brand new microphone, courtesy of my my best friend Isaac. So, it's a Blue Yeti. I've hooked it up to all these little gadgets. I've even got this brand new foam thing. I can't remember the name of it. I can't remember what you call it, but it basically blocks out and makes it sound nicer, a little bit sweeter. I could even do some ASMR. So let me know in the comment section if you guys would like to see some ASMR. Today, we're going to be talking about Death Note. Death Note is one of those mangas that I have read, and I love all of them, and I'm rereading them. I probably should have made my video of this a little bit before, because I'm basically rereading the mangas right now. Also, I've got a nice little setup. Oh, I love it. I really hope it sounds good on the other end. But yeah, anyway, as I was saying, Death Note is one of those mangas that, it's my very first collection, my very first manga box set, that comes with all of them. The next one is going to be, actually I'm not going to say on the video. I'm going to save it as a surprise. But I do have another box set coming. And let's just say it is very huge movie-wise. It's a great box set. I got it for a really good price. And I've, been rereading every single one of them. At the moment, I'm actually on volume 8. So this is the volume I'm on. But I thought, you know what, before I start getting really ahead of myself, considering I've only got, 5, I guess, because I haven't read this, 5 volumes left, I may as well stop, take a break, go back to volume 1, make a video on it, and, do all the way up to volume 7 of doing reviews on each manga volume. Because I don't want to, I don't want you guys to miss out. I want you guys to get the best content of every single manga. Whether that is Death Note or Hunter x Hunter, Berserk, obviously Berserk's, that's up there. That's really my king manga right now. That's really what I'm vibing with. Enough about all of these other mangas. We're going to be talking about Death Note today. So if you don't know, Death Note is a manga about a boy called Light who is basically sick of the world. He's bored and nothing good is going his way. He's good in school, I guess. So, he's really smart. Everyone respects him. But it's just not the life he wants. He wants a bit of danger on that lifestyle, Conveniently, a Death Note, some note drops from the sky. And he's the first one to spot it, goes and checks it out. And as you can tell, where that kind of escalates into. We're going to be going into that in the volume. We also see another character called Ryuk, and I love Ryuk. He is literally one of my top characters in all manga ever. I really, really love Ryuk. I've never known a character in manga before that can be so lovable and so hateful at the same time. When I start to do these reviews and show you guys what I'm talking about, you'll understand exactly what I mean. He's such a lovable character and you love to see him, even though he's, creepy as hell. But he's also got such a funness to him where he just wants to have fun. That's purely where this manga spawns from. This whole storyline, up to all these 13 volumes, simply start because this Ryuk dude, he's a Shinigami, which is like, the death gods. It happens all because he was bored. He was bored with the world that he was living and everyone, is just doing their thing. It's not a crazy, this Shinigami world isn't crazy. It's just a regular world, even like Earth. And except, you know, instead of jobs, people are more just playing board games and gambling and, you know, just doing little things like that. Everyone's just sitting around. He gets so bored of it, he drops his... So that's essentially where this whole story comes from. It's just Ryuk being bored. That in itself, I just love. That tells a lot about Ryuk as a character. You know, this whole story thing that has spawned and escalated and is so serious to all these humans. You know, it's so serious to the human world. But, you know, to his world and to his mind, it's nothing really. He just wants to have a bit of fun. He's just watching it almost like you'd watch a movie. Anyway, we get to see really cool shot here of Light and Ryuk together. It's a really cool shot. I love all... Can I also just say, before I fully jump into it, how much I love the Death Note covers. You'll see, like, as we go on, how nice these covers are. There is literally not one Death Note cover that I think, you know, that's a bit stupid. You know, if you read, like, Hunter x Hunter and all these other mangas, there's always, like, really dull, stupid covers that you don't really like. This always feels like there's effort put into these ones. Light ends up finding this note and takes it home. Obviously, like most people, you wouldn't really believe a book that says Death Note with all these rules inside saying how the Death Note works. That's just something you don't really believe. I think that's what I really like about Light as a character too, is because he really is just some average teen. You know, he hasn't really got these sadistic, evil ways of thinking. You know, obviously as the manga goes on, you'll see with him turning to Kira and, you know, how serious he takes this new world he has in his head and how far he'll go to make sure that world happens. He's just like any other character. He's just like me, and he's just like any of you. There's nothing special about him. And I think that's what I love to see about him, is that you're watching this teenager suddenly who's, you know, yeah, he's popular and he's got, you know, he's really smart and he gets good grades. But at the end of the day, he has now just been given the ultimate power. He has been given the power of a death god. And it's so smart to see, with all of us asking the question, would we ever use the Death Note? Realistically, no matter what you say, no, yes, maybe, I don't know, but I'd only use it on certain people. I would use it on the people I hate. All of that will be thrown out the window. Realistically, we're all going to use the Death Note. And that's purely just because we're humans. We have curiosity, and that's why we would use it. He brings it home, he's reading the book a little bit, and he doesn't really take it seriously, and so he looks on the TV and sees there's a raid on a school. You know, there's a guy taking a bunch of children hostages, and so Light decides to write the guy's name in the book. It says in one of the rules that if you just write their name, it will take 40 seconds, and then if there's no way of dying involved in the book, that person will automatically just die of a heart attack. It's such a good scene. It's so nerve-wracking, knowing that it obviously is real, knowing obviously with Death Note being a thing, but when you're watching Light as a character, just watching the time tick away, there's that obvious part in the back of your head where you do believe it. You know, he's obviously just doing it as a, fine, I'll do it, let's see if this thing actually does it. It's so stupid. But he still sits and he still takes that time. And it's so nerve-wracking as a reader, you know, like, even in the anime. You know, the anime portrays Death Note in such a good way as well. I really love the anime. You know, the anime is a very few episodes kind of show. You stick on, you can watch those in a matter of no time. The Death Note manga, like, really has a lot of reading. You know, it's not your regular manga. If you're one of those guys that like to just get into the action and blah, 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 Death Note really isn't for you. It's got a lot of information and a lot of rules that you need to keep in the back of your mind and a lot of strategy and planning involved. You know, you really do need to pay attention when reading this manga. Anyway, the time goes by, and as you can guess, the guy dies of a heart attack. Light takes this to the next level. He goes out on the streets, and he still has the note in his bag. And he sees, while in a store, you know, he's just looking at comic books and stuff, he sees a girl getting harassed by a gang of bikers. You know, the guy, it's kind of weird, the guy just announces his name. You know, he's like, my name's Takua Shibamaru. That's Shibutaku for sure. Come on, girl. Like, he just announces his name. Like, I'll have to show you this. It's just really random, it's kind of off the point, but I just love that he just announces his name. Like, man, I really hope nobody with a Death Note is around. I really hope nobody who needs to know my name is around. Because here is my name. Light here's the guy's name, writes it in, but this time he puts his own rule, and he writes traffic accident. Girl tries to run away, and wouldn't you know it, he gets hit by a truck. This is the realization for Light, that this book really is real. This is a Death Note. And I love the sudden change in character. You know, if you look at that scene and how normal and calm he is, the realization really smacks you. That this power is real. You genuinely have a Death Note. This is where we also get to see the evolution, I'm going to say, of Light taking his form into Kira. So we get to see him under the covers. You know, he feels like he's going to be sick. He's saying, do I even have the guts to use this? You know, why should I? Should I just quit? You know, and he's going through all of these feelings and emotions that every single person who would ever read a Death Note, figuring out that it is real, by the way, would ever... That's also what we would go through. And I love that in the end, no matter what he tries to tell himself, he can't help it. He just uses it. He can't help but use that Death Note. It really makes us ask the question of all of us right now who say, if we ever got a Death Note, would you use it? And all of these certain things that we would come out with to not use it. At the end of the day, I think we would. I think every single one of us would use this Death Note, and we would just want to do it out of straight curiosity. This is where Light ends up telling Ryuk his master plan, and he tells him, you know, at the end of the day, if I do this correctly, and I do this for the, you know, for the good of the world, I can reign over and create a new world, a better world. And this is where Ryuk comes out with the famous quote, I was right, humans are fun. And it's such a nice scene. I just love that picture. Such an awesome shot. Anyway, now we get to see a little bit of a push into a bunch of new characters. We've got the police station. And they're talking about a topic about 52 people dying in the past week. You know, criminals of heart attacks. This is where the concept comes up. Surely there is a murderer, but how is he murdering? You know, what is going on right now? Or maybe it's just pure coincidence. Nobody truly knows what's happening. And that's where we get to see our new character, L. He is what makes the Death Note fun. You know, it's almost like the Joker Batman kind of situation. You've got the pure yin-yangs. You've got Light and L who are just as smart as each other, but for their morals are in very different directions. So with Light obtaining this Death Note and wanting to create this new world and wanting to get rid of all bad guys, L, on the other hand, is not like that. He is purely for the books, for the government. I mean, for the books, not really, but when it comes to rules of obviously killing people, he really does not take kindly to that. He wants to go out of his way to make sure this person is captured. But anyway, L is this man who can solve any crime. Nobody knows what he looks like, nobody knows who he is, and L's not even his real name. You know, it's just a fake name so nobody can actually try and track him down. We learn that he is essentially this man that can solve any case. He's really held at high regard when it comes to crime solving. But there's also something about him. He obviously doesn't want to... This is what I was saying earlier when I was saying, you know, well, no, not really go by the books. That's the problem with L, is that people know he doesn't really like to go by the books to solve these crimes. So he's very hard to work with. We also get to see this said from the Chief. He's a new character as well. He's almost the character to portray this information over to us. Anyway, we get to go and see back with Light, and he's talking to some buddies. They're talking about how they're addicted to this, you know, Kira case and what's going on. And all these criminals dropping dead. Light's just letting it kind of go over them. But this is where we get to see that what he's doing is kind of actually working. You know, these are just some teenagers. You know, one of them says, I know, I did some shoplifting back in grade school and I'm freaking out about it. It's obvious that what Light's doing is genuinely working. You know, this has only happened, for a week now? And it's already got teenagers thinking about when they were shoplifting. We get to see him on the internet. He's looking at a website about, there's actually a few of them, The Legend of Kira. So it's kind of spiraled into the snowball where people are now talking about this god. His name is Kira, and he is killing everyone for their wrongdoings. He's realizing, you know, this is kind of the This is kind of Light realizing that what he's doing is making an impact. And this is only over a week. Anyway, we get to see Light turn on the TV. L on the TV. He tells him that his name is Lind L. Taylor, and commonly known as L, and he is here to try and find Kira. Everyone's freaking out. Everyone's just unbelieved by what's going on and how he can just bring his face onto the TV, how he can bring his name out there and just straightforwardly saying what's going on. This is where he mentions that I am going to stop you. Now, keep in mind, he hasn't done anything wrong. He's just saying that he wants to stop Kira. This is where Light's anger comes into it. He writes Lindell Taylor down on the paper, and the guy on the TV dies. We get a voice from the TV saying, I don't believe it. This was an experiment to test a hunch I had, but I never really thought it would work. Kira, it seems that you can kill people simply by knowing, just seeing who they are. This is where L tells his plan and says, the guy that you've just killed is actually a murderer. He was gonna be on death row. He was actually on death row today. So the man you have killed, don't worry yourself too much. He was also a criminal. But at the end of the day, Light didn't know this. To Light, this was L. This was Lind L. Taylor, the guy who's trying to hunt him down. Never done anything wrong. He's not a criminal, and he took him out. This tells a lot about Light. Not only is he trying to stop these criminals, that's almost just something he's telling himself. Yes, he is stopping these criminals, and he's trying to murder these criminals that are, to make a better world. But he's also going to stop anybody that tries to get in his way, evil or not. This is where L basically completely 180s him, tells him, but I do exist, and now I've known that you are in Japan, because I have only broadcasted this in Japan. I meant Tokyo, or obviously Japan, but Tokyo. This is where we see the game start, where they're both saying, at the end of the day, whoever's found first is dead. So now it's a race against time to whoever gets found out first. Ryuk is just loving this. He's just laying to the sidelines, watching all of this happen. He's just mind blown at what's happening in front of his eyes. Anyway, we get to see a little flick back to the Shinigami realm. It's now become a little bit of a talk around town, with Ryuk going down, saying how he's become a pet to a human. So, it's obvious that what Ryuk is doing is not common for the Shinigami world to be doing. We could also learn that Ryuk's a little bit of a troublemaker. He's actually stolen Death Notes before, and he's stolen and lost them on purpose to create these situations. Anyway, we get to see a little bit of an introduction to Light's sister, and she just comes in talking about what's going on, and he uses the excuse that he was, reading pervy magazines and stuff. But the point of this part is to essentially show not only that he's a good brother, because he's, he's helping her do her work and everything like that. He's obviously very well respected. But it shows that he needs to find a place to hide this Death Note. He was just reading it until she nearly burst in the room. If she didn't knock, then that would have been game over. There would have been questions asked, and, it would have been nuts. We get to see a little bit back to the police station, everyone talking about how there's this brand new Kira case and everyone's on it. We need to get to the bottom of it. It's going to be nearly unsolvable. That's why we've got Ellen, and it's just absolute mayhem. Nobody even knows what's going on. And the chief ends up going home. He's talking about how he's been so tired. He's just not gotten any sleep. He's been stuck on this case. And this is where we get the twist. The chief is actually Light's dad. Now, why this is so nuts is because we now have a family member who's trying his very best to go against Kira, trying to find him out. And doesn't he know that Kira is living under his own home? It's his own son. I love all of these random little kind of plot twists and little kind of twists and turns we get in Death Note. It always keeps you on your toes. It always keeps you thinking, what's going to happen? Would this character ever treat this character a different way? And this is what it's all about. It's all about twisting things up and making you ask these questions. Anyway, we get to see Light creating a schedule for his Death Note. He's talking about how he's going to need to keep locks on his doors. He's going to try and write deaths down at certain times and all these different kind of ideas. We can see that the idea of having a Death Note is really starting to get to his head. He's trying to really pin it down almost like a job. He's treating this like a job right now. You know, he's making sure he never gets caught while also being able to always function and use this Death Note. Anyway, walking home from school, Light ends up going into an abandoned bathroom. It's like an abandoned bathroom or like school classroom in the middle of nowhere. He's just talking to Ryuk. This is essentially a place for him to go where he can talk to Ryuk alone. Nobody's questioning him. And he essentially tells him the importance of trying to hide this Death Note. He tells him that if I don't hide this and I get caught, I am going to have to kill my family. And there is no question about it. This is where we also get to see how serious he is taking this. You know, he's already taking it serious. But like I said before, he's now talking about murdering his own family if he has to. He is not joking. He is taking this to the extreme. We get to see a little jump to L's perspective. He's kind of going over everything and telling himself, right, you know, from the estimated time of the victim's death, I told the task force there was a strong possibility Kira is a student. So he's already pinned down he's a student now. Sometimes you don't even know where he's getting this from. He goes over it, but it's, you know, very genius the way he's doing it. We are obviously learning from the outside point of view that L is no one to be messing with. He is smart and he knows what he's doing. He also has a helper called Watari. You know, we don't really know who he is. He's just all dressed up and in black. We don't really see his face. But he's, you know, L's right-hand man. This is where L starts to talk about manipulation, on how L and the police force are working together. But realistically, they're going to start going behind each other's backs. So all he has to do is wait it out until they find L. Then he can slip in, take L out, and then it's over with. Obviously, we're starting to see that he is not taking L as seriously as L is taking Kira. He's going to be very blown away when he realizes how hard it's going to be to get L. This is where we start to see the reality of it come into play at the police headquarters. A bunch of people have now gone forth and they're saying, I want out. I'm not doing this. You know, people are dying. And it's been proven that he is going to take out the task force. Knowing, obviously, with thinking it was L on the TV, he will go out of his way to kill people that are trying to stop him. It's where we see the true team come together. You know, you'll see that a little bit in the later volume, but this is where we start to see our true team of catching Kira come into play. Anyway, we get to see L's invention. And it is a drawer. So, anyway, it's a drawer that he has a key on. But when you open, it's just a diary. With a little prick at the bottom with a pen. You know, the inside of a pen. It lifts up the bottom and reveals the real Death Note. The reason he has created this with a pen is because if you don't use plastic, it will conduct electricity, exploding the whole drawer. So if anybody actually does find this Death Note and, you know, finds the hole to reveal it, they're not going to get away with it because it's just going to blow up the whole drawer and all evidence of this Death Note will be gone. Sure, people will be asking, why would you have that set up in your drawer? And, you know, somebody might get injured, but at the end of the day, there's no evidence. You know, you can't go down as... You can't get arrested for not having the Death Note. You can't get arrested with no evidence. So this is where we start to see the brains of Light coming into play. It's very clear how similar Light and L are. This is where Ryuk reveals to Light that he's actually not on anyone's side. He's just saying that, you know, I'm here for fun. I'm not on your side, and I'm not on L's side either. He tells them, the reason I'm telling you this is because I only want to tell you this. And somebody is following you. Light doesn't realize this, and obviously gives him a little bit of a shock. This is where he goes home, tries to take everything really calm, and Light asks Ryuk a few different questions about generally just being a Shinigami. He also reveals to Light that he can see humans' lifespans and names with his eyes. This is where he now slicks in the little deal, you know, the very popular deal that if you want to make a trade for half of your lifespan, you can have my eyes and you can see everyone's name above their head plus their death date. Obviously, this gains Light's attention. Imagine how helpful this would be, and it's just trying to figure out what he would do. Then he ends up saying, nope, out of the question, not happening. The reason of this is because he says, if I'm really going to be the god of this world, then I need to keep as many years of my life as I can. Ryuk also tells Light that, by the way, if you think you're going to be able to get into heaven or hell, you are truly mistaken. This is where Light starts to ask, how far can I go into detail about death? You know, can I almost set up rules before they die? There are these prisoners that are in a prison dying of cardiac arrest. But the difference with these victims is that one draws a pentagram on the wall, another writes a note, and another one basically collapses 30 meters away from the prison he was in. We obviously know that this is just Kira, or Light, trying to test his boundaries, how far he can actually go with this death note. We get to learn that Light is also got something in plans. By the way, can I also point out that he's also still doing homework? Light is still doing homework. Like, I mean, he's still keeping his, like, normal life going while doing this secret alter ego Kira lifestyle. Anyway, we get to learn of a plan that he's got to try and track down this person that's following him. He's got a date with a girl. We don't really know what's going to be going on. Can I also say, I really like the detail of every end of a chapter having a new rule for the Death Note that we didn't know before. I don't know why, I just really like that. I think that's really cool. You know, it's one of those things that always keeps you going back and reading. If something happens in the manga and you think, is that a rule of Death Note? Always keeps you going back and, oh, well, I guess it is. You know, there it is. It was written before the scene. This is where we get to see the brains of Light really come into play. He gets on a bus, knowing the person's obviously going to follow him on the bus. You know, this person tracking him down, this spy. He uses the Death Note to write down the person he was talking about earlier, you know, this criminal, to get on the bus, hold the bus hostage, to then use as an excuse to get the person behind him, the one that's following him. You'll see it's this guy here. To give him his name and his information. You know, he gives him a note and he tells him everything. The guy's saying it's going to be too dangerous. He passes him and says, how can I know that you're not working with this guy? So, you know, the guy gives Light his passport and his ID, basically. We also learn that it's actually L using the FBI to probe the MPA. We also see that he wrote something on the note to distract this guy, to make him think that he's got a plan, you know, to try and pass notes around. The guy picks it up, comes to the front of the bus, he's saying, what are you doing, holding the gun up? But what he doesn't realize is that this is actually a part of the Death Note. Now, if you touch a piece of paper from the Death Note, you will be able to see Ryuk. Ryuk appears, you know, before this guy. He's going crazy. He's shooting Ryuk. It doesn't work. It's just a really cool scene overall. Just shows how powerful Ryuk is. And Ryuk's starting to get in his head, oh, right. Light isn't even telling Ryuk his plans. He's just kind of letting Ryuk learn along. The guy runs off the bus, gets ran over, and that's the end of the volume. It's pretty nuts to think about where this can go, and trust me when I tell you, Death Note goes so many ways, like, so many ways that you wouldn't even think of. That's what I love about the first volume. It keeps it very simple, even though it brings these rules into it, keeps the concept of the Death Note very simple. Just a boy murdering people, trying to not get caught. Anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this review of Death Note Volume 1, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, turn your notifications on. If you like my new setup as well, leave in the comment section what you think about it. I'm really excited about it, and I'm really excited to use it. But I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you in the next review.